Good day again, everyone. Allow me to thank our sponsors for this month, Marshall Lee Weinblatt, Ilishmat Lee's mother, Chavariva Bat Aaron Yosef and Bracha, Allah Shalom, whose second yahrzeit is today, and Neshama Shabbat Aliyah, sponsoring also Ilishmat, Marsha's sister, Gittel Bat Chaim Yisachar, Allah Shalom. Thanks Sandy and Steve Gratko, sponsoring this month, Ilishmat Steve's parents, Raga Feivel Ben Sender, and Dina Bat Avraham, Alayhi Shalom. Sponsored by Julie Richard Ehrlich, Lidishmat Rachel Miriam Bat Yona Allah Shalom. Sponsored anonymously as a Schutfer for Shlema for Gittel Rivka Bat Esther Shifra Shetichya, and sponsored also by Chai Nelfuld as a schut for their son, their beloved son Hillel, Lidishmat Hillel Ovashom Ben Yoel Yaakov She Yichya. Well, today, January 27th, Lafi Minyanam, is observed for whatever reason as International Holocaust Remembrance Day. It doesn't really have much sway in Israel. I think it's a UN phenomenon altogether, but it's appropriate to say at least something about the day, if only because last week I finished reading a book about Josef Mengele. His bones should be ground to dust, and they literally were. Mengele, a book called Mengele, written by David Morwell, who was one of the people in the Justice Department who pursued him for many years, and subsequently verified that he had died. So some of his story, I mean, much of his story is known: the cruelty, the barbarity, the almost unfathomable inhumanity that he could perform on other human beings, the selections, the medical experiments on twins. I mean, he was a doctor, a medical doctor, and he had training. And all right, enough has been written on that. What fascinated me was a few things. Secondly, the question, did he escape justice? And firstly, what type of person he was. I realized when I saw pictures of him, I had never seen a picture of what Mengele looked like before. I somehow thought he looked like Gregory Peck in The Boys from Brazil. That was my image of him, maybe just as well. He was married to a woman named Irene. And Irene, in 1984, wrote to two researchers who were writing a book about Mengele, and this is what she wrote. I knew Joseph Mengele as an absolutely honorable, decent, conscientious, very charming, elegant, and amusing person. Otherwise, I probably would not have married him. I grew up in a good, prosperous house, and I did not lack for marriage possibilities. Well, to her credit, she divorced him after the war when she found out. How much she knew during the war is arguable. Apparently, she visited him once. Mengele was only in Auschwitz for about a year, and she visited him there once, never entered the camp. There were separate quarters for the SS off the camp, and she spent a few days. And during that year, she was also pregnant with their son, Rolf. And their son had almost no relationship with the father over the years. And Irene had no interest in going into hiding and leaving Germany. So she stayed in Germany, eventually remarried, whereas Mengele had to flee. What disturbed me, I guess this came out also years ago, I probably didn't remember it. Mengele was taken prisoner by the Americans right when the war ended. He used an alias, and for whatever reason, even though they had his picture and his pedigree, they did not identify him. And he was just released after the year. He went into hiding in Germany, then in Italy, and he made his way to South America in 1949. Well, then, years later, a search began for him by the Israelis. The truth is that after the Israelis found Eichmann in 1960, very briefly, they had a very intensive search for Mengele, but then it was given up. And the head of the Mossad said to Levi Eshkol a few years later, we have to deal more with the real live present day Nazis and not just live in the past. That started a entire uh, movement to find Mengele. Was he alive? There was Mengele sightings over these years. And it turned out that he died. He drowned in 1979, something that many people refused to accept for many years. as his death was only truly verified about 15 years later. One person writing about this said that the survivors had a very hard time thinking that he died in his bed, a natural death, without being able to put him on trial, having to defend himself, and then executing him. I understand that, but maybe it's misplaced. He died drowning. He suffocated to death. His body washed up on shore, and then his neighbors brought him in. He was buried under an assumed name. And when, as word got out over the years, in the mid '80s, that that was Mengele's grave, he was in Brazil at the time. The Brazilian authorities dug up his grave, exhumed the body, but it was done a completely haphazard and unprofessional way. They literally tore him apart bone by bone. So he wasn't taken up as a skeleton, but bones. Really, the type of treatment the Chazal say Achov and Izevel got, that their bones were scattered throughout the land of Israel. They found some hair, and Marvel writes that he was actually relieved when the investigator said to him, "This does not appear to be human hair," which he took it to mean this guy really was inhuman. But what struck me was his difficulty with his son. His son Rolf communicated over the years, never really saw him growing up. And then when they finally met once in 1977, secretly in Brazil, he challenged his father for what he did in Auschwitz, and then saying, how could it be that people you deem racially flawed or subhuman are even more brilliant than those who considered to be racial paragons? And he meant the Jews. And Mengele did not have an answer. The way he died, the way he was torn apart, the way he rejected his son, it's a little justice for that Russia. May his bones continue to be ground to dust. Good day.